Host the colors.
Colors. Halt. Present. Arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the rampart we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Port. Arms. Colors. Colors turn. March.
If you would, join me in a word of prayer. This morning, at the Chief's request, I'd like to share a special prayer from his friend, Chaplain Werner, who is serving at Ramstein and couldn't be here today. Lord God Almighty, I thank you for everyone here today that has come to celebrate and have a ball, to honor a man who's given his all. To rise to the title Chief is an achievement not small. Comes with stories we'll hear today, sure to enthrall. I'm sure he's had close calls, days that felt like fastballs, stints that were long hauls, and issues that seemed to snowball. But none were his downfall, because you, Lord God, had his back through it all. Whether against the wall, chewed up like a meatball, or tossed round like a rag doll, we can be thankful his protocol is having a loving God and Savior at his beck and call. We're also thankful he is smooth like a cue ball, even after smashing through any obstacle like a wrecking ball, coming out the other side still standing tall. So now I pray that his most important conference call is when he prays with his family, his hardest TDY going to the shopping mall. and his toughest battle, a game of Oklahoma football. So now, once and for all, Lord God, bless Chief Master Sergeant Hall. For your glory and in your holy name, amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Hill and Airman Coop. Please be seated and join me in welcoming the commander, 45th Space Wing.
Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out to a celebration, I think we're going to call it today, right, Alec? A celebration of 28 plus years of dedicated service by Chief Master Sergeant Alec Hall. And so welcome, thanks for being here. I want to say welcome to the family. We met upstairs, and I cannot do as good of introduction that Senior Master Sergeant Baker did. There was some, did you guys hear some things in it? Love Bunny and some other stuff in there. So I'm not even going to try to do that. I'm just going to say welcome, and what a great crowd. We talked about, I think, Kansas, Arkansas, and then now Florida, but obviously come from quite a distance to be here. So, Chief, just don't listen for a minute. So this is for you. I'm sure if Chief Hall had, is there a big echo? Okay. If Chief Hall had his, can we turn me down just a little bit? I'm sorry. If Chief Hall had his way, we'd probably just be doing a luau or something and then kicking him in the butt and saying goodbye. But this is for you, and this is for you to learn about and hear about some of the things that you maybe didn't know that Chief Hall did over his career, and the dedication and the sacrifices and the influence he had as we built our Air Force and as we protected our nation and protected you. So thank you for your sacrifices to the Hall children. I just want to say thank you for your sacrifices. I know that Debbie and I like to talk about that when an airman joins the Air Force and eventually a family comes along, the family also serves and sacrifices, depending upon how that looks to them. But regardless of that, because of the things that we have to do as military folks, but the deployments, the long nights, the TDYs. And so I appreciate to the Hall children the sacrifices that you made when Chief Hall wasn't there. So thank you for that. To Mom and Dad, thanks for loaning us Alec for a little bit of time. It might be longer than you thought, but thank you for doing that. We need parents that support their members to go off and do this and wear the uniform of our nation and serve that. So thank you. I know the sacrifices you've made as well. Debbie and I now have adult children, and we know what it's like for them not to be there during some of the holidays and things. And so thank you for your sacrifice. And so Mom and Dad-in-law as well, thank you for your support to Suzanne, and thank you for being a part of this Air Force family as well. So thank you for that. All right, Suzanne, I understand it's your birthday. So can we sing happy birthday to Suzanne? And I will not sing because I'm on a big night. But if somebody could start that, I'd really appreciate it. So.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Suzanne. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah. You can kill Alec later for that one. Suzanne, I just want to say thank you for your years of service and for your support to Alec, but also your support and service to our airmen and their families. I know that you've done an incredible job, and most recently, Debbie and I want to thank you for your work that you've done helping us with the Exceptional Family Member Program and the things that you're doing to make that a better program. There are countless families that will be benefited from the things that you do, so I want to publicly thank you for that, and we appreciate all of your work. So if we could give Suzanne a hand for that. All right, so I'm now going to, well, first, Alec, thanks for allowing me to do this. It is always an honor to be an officiant of a promotion or a retirement ceremony, but I actually think it's always a little bit sweeter to be a retirement ceremony because we get to talk about you for things that have done in the past and look towards the future for what you have in store. So thank you. So it's an honor that Debbie and I get to be a part of this today. So thank you for allowing us to do that. All right, so I'm going to walk through Chief Hall's career. So it's 28 years, so we'll be here for quite a long time. No, I'm just joking. We're going to hit the wave tops, and if I say anything incorrect, the only people that will know that is probably Suzanne, Chief Hall, and Lieutenant Barkley in the back who helped me get this right. So we'll just go with it, and you know, if I give him a Medal of Honor or something, or no, I'm just kidding. But we're just going to go with it. But I'm going to go through the wave tops, mostly for the family, so that you can see the accomplishments of Chief Hall over the years. So he joined our Air Force, started at basic training in January of 1991. He was telling me before we came in here that he actually did a delayed entry from January of 1990 to be able to get the career field that he wanted. But if everybody remembers what was happening in 1990 and 1991, I was at Medina Annex in 1990, and a few weeks later, the Iraqis and Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. So January of 1991, bombs are dropping, and we're on to the day's ground war. And so that's when Chief Airman Hall enters basic military training. And so he does a great job. One of the things why he delayed was because he wanted the career field that he wanted, which was computers and communications. And so for all the young folks in the room, I want you to think back to 1990 and 1991. What were computers and communications? That was the dial telephone with the rotary, or, hey, operator, can you help me? But Chief was looking towards the future. He was looking forward to cyber and cyber operations and cyber warfare and security, and he wanted to be a part of that. I think we might have had the DARPA net then, maybe an internet. No cell phones, if there were. I didn't know anything about them. But so he enters this computer communications career field, and he heads off to just a terrible place for his first assignment. Airman First Class heads off to Lodges Field in the Azores. My first assignment was Grand Forks, North Dakota. I'm not sure what happened when those were getting, sent out, but he heads off. You're going to see a theme of islands and tropical through his career here, but he seems to always kind of get the best. He likes to be by water, which comes from his time growing up in Hawaii, maybe. But he heads off there, and he's the Unisys Systems Monitor. I have no idea what that means. Unisys Systems Monitor. We could have Alec come up and talk about it, but we're not. So he did a great job, incredible job keeping that up. I'm sure it was a very important system that we needed for the warfighters there in Lodges, and he did a great job. As a matter of fact, his branch chief says he's the best airman I have in his first EPR of doing that. And so he gets to spend some time there in Lodges for 2 years, learning his craft, becoming a communications computer operator. And, so his second assignment can't be a great place, right? Because his first assignment was pretty great. So now Senior Airman Hall heads off to Naples, Italy. Chief, I don't get this. So, and so he is a computer supervisor there, a communications professional. And that's in NATO. And so in the Air Force, we call all of our squadrons, we number them. So like this is the 45th Space Wing you're here, so we would number a communication squadron. But this is NATO. NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization protecting Europe, protecting our interests in the North Atlantic. And so they call their communication squadrons by like maybe where they were from, like so a city or an airfield or something. And so he's in the Bagnoli Communications Squadron. And this is where I really wish I had those voices or accents where I could, do the whole Bagnoli. I mean, if Colonel St. Marie was up here, there'd be this whole Bagnoli Italian thing that...
Buongiorno, Generale! Signore e signori, è pronunciato Bagnoli Comunicazione.
Exactly. But I can't do that, so that's why he did it. So, yeah, great job. Yeah, so. Bagnoli Communications Squadron. And so he's doing an incredible job there. He's winning Airman of the Quarter awards. He's winning Computer Comm Operator of the Award, and just doing an incredible job there, keeping the system operational for the folks there. And so it's now time for him to go move again. He's a staff sergeant. And finally, he comes back to America, to a location in the breadbasket in the middle of the country, to Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma, right? And so finally, he gets to see what the real Air Force is like in the middle of the country. But he joins what we call a Combat Communications Squadron. And so to tell you a little bit about that, so those other squadrons that we talked about, we're keeping calm and things going, but a combat communications squadron is the folks that go out when our war fighters, sometimes our defenders or even our special operators have to go forward where there is no comm. And so the combat communications squadron has to go forward and get that comm ready to go. And so he's in charge of he's a tactical switch operator, which has got to be really important. But he's keeping that communication system, but he's not only responsible for the communications equipment, he's responsible for the special purpose vehicles that have to take that equipment in. He has to have them ready at all time, ready to deploy at a moment's notice. And he does a great job. He deploys during that time down to Central America, South America, for a counter-drug operation called Operation Constant Vigil. And so while he's on that, they kind of see that he's really good at this thing called communication security, ComSec. And so if you think about those folks that are going down forward, usually doing stuff in the middle of the night, secret, we got to keep those communications classified. We need to make sure that no one can enter them. So we have to have encryptions and different things. And so his branch chief actually calls him a ComSec guru. And so then he becomes the ComSec manager for the whole squadron during that time. 1,000 different pieces of items that he's responsible for to make sure that they all have the right encryption and they're ready to go on a moment's notice to deploy. And so Staff Sergeant Hall is doing a really, really great job. They're doing that. He's continuing to get accolades, continuing to be Airman of the Quarter, Airman of the Year, Operator of the Year, and just doing incredible jobs. And so it's time for his next assignment. Is it to like somewhere in the middle of the country? Yeah, to Ramstein Air Force Base, Germany. Yeah. Again, I don't know who his assignment person was, but so he goes off to Ramstein Air Force Base, Germany, and he's a global command and control system operator. Geeks. Everybody remember Geeks? So that is a huge system that is out there to make sure that we can deploy and command and control our forces. So it has everybody in there, when they're supposed to deploy, what equipment they're supposed to bring, all that. And he's in charge of making sure that that continues to operate and that we can deploy from Ramstein to other places. As a matter of fact, he deploys to Saudi Arabia and to Operation Southern Watch. So remember, he enters the Air Force when Iraq had invaded Kuwait, kind of took care of that, put them back where they're supposed to be, but we didn't completely take care of the issue. And so our Middle Eastern coalition partners in the South were fearful of Iraq, and so we instituted a no-fly zone. And so he deploys down there, keeps things running, doing great operations there, and in Operation Southern Watch. He then becomes the team lead of 19 folks that are responsible for the upgrades to Geeks, making sure that they're all getting upgraded and taking care of the things that they need to do. And so he's back at Ramstein doing that. And then he deploys again to Turkey, this time Operation Northern Watch. And so we had the same issue in the south, we had it in the north, and so he had to protect from a no-fly zone with Turkey and doing great stuff there. And so he's doing great things there. Again, winning awards, NCO of the Year, just tearing it up as a staff sergeant and doing great things. And it's time for him now to come back to the United States, right? Yeah, to Kansas. So, okay, Oklahoma, Kansas. He's got a couple locations that are, how many people like Kansas? I mean, that's awesome. I was waiting for you guys to say it, because they're from Kansas. So he heads off to Kansas to McConnell Air Force Base, and he's in charge of the network there and making sure that that network, from a security standpoint. So think about, as we continue to do computers and phones and stuff, we started to say, hey, people can hack into these things, and so we need to make sure that we do that from a security perspective. So he's responsible for 2,400 systems across McConnell Air Force Base to make sure that they're upgraded and that they're secure. You know, think about myself trying to keep my own laptop at home with the right, antivirus, whatever. He's got 2,400 of them doing a great job. So he's a tech sergeant now, and he's working through that, doing an incredible job. We sent him to the NCO Academy, and he's a distinguished graduate from the NCO Academy. But not only is he a distinguished graduate, he's the Commandant Leadership Award winner. So not only is he doing really great stuff with his homework and getting his tests great, but he's also demonstrating that leadership, and so doing an incredible job. All of those accolades are noticed by the Mission Support Group commander. He says, hey, I need Tech Sergeant Hall to work for me. And so he makes him his NCOIC, non-commissioned officer in charge of his Commander's Action Group. And so for those of you who don't know what a Commander's Action Group is, that's the person that's responsible for keeping the commander able to get his guidance, his direction, or her direction out, getting the messages out to the 1,000 people at this point, and a 06 commander Tech Sergeant Hall to be the person that makes sure that that's getting out. So it's not the actual how does the get across the network, it's the forming what the commander's saying, giving him examples, working with him or her, and making sure that's getting out. So he does a good job. As he leaves there, he's the #1 of 150 tech sergeants in that wing, and so he's doing an incredible job. But probably the most important thing that happened in Kansas is I asked if he actually got arrested for stalking, but no. But apparently Suzanne lived. There was some debate. He said a couple houses down. She said across the street. I'm not completely positive. Maybe when you're looking through binoculars, it looks a little closer. So Chief Hall notices his neighbor, and he says, "Hey, this is I can have a voice again, but no, sit." He notices his neighbor, and he says, "Hey, this is probably the best thing that's ever going to happen to me." And so that's when Suzanne and her family, they blend their families together, and Suzanne joins the Air Force. So Kansas is pretty darn good, if you ask me, right? Right, Alec? All right. And so as a tech sergeant, he's been doing great things there. But it's time that he's got to go do a remote to Osan Air Base, Korea. And so he heads over there. Instead of a communications squadron, he goes to an intelligence squadron. And he's responsible for all the infrastructure with what we call the distributed common ground system. So that's the system that takes in all of the sensors around that area, all of the intelligence information, brings it together so that analysts can analyze it and provide that information to the decision makers. And so he's got to keep all that architecture going. He does a great job. He's promoted to master sergeant. And during that time, again, Osan, so it's water around there. So he does a great job. And then his next assignment, he heads off to Anderson Air Force Base in Guam, right? Tropical island again. I don't understand all of these tropical islands. But he heads off there, and he's in charge of the network control center, making sure that whole base, which not only has Air Force, but other joint parties, multinationals there, he keeps that system up. 2,400 folks, or 2,400 systems there that he's keeping up and doing a great job. And so making all kinds of decisions, training his troops, and NCO of the year, all those kind of things. And so during that time, he deploys to Bahrain. It's kind of tropical. I mean, there's water around it. But he heads off there, doing the same thing there. 4,000 systems there, keeping that multinational system going. So he makes senior master sergeant. You'd think it's probably time to come back to a center of the United States, right? No, he goes to Hickam Air Force Base, Hawaii. And he goes to the detachment of the 561st Network Operations Squadron there. He's the operations flight superintendent there. And so he's responsible for the $400 million Pacific network that keeps all of PACAF, the Pacific Air Forces, and PACOM, U.S. Pacific Commands, or now Indo-Pacific Commands, systems up and operational. During that time, there is a tsunami that happens that hits Japan that really takes Japan, devastates Japan, and because of that, there was a nuclear incident that caused some issues. And so the 561st NOS is making sure that they're keeping the communication up for the first responders and other folks, and making sure, and so they're doing an incredible job, working long hours, making sure that's happening. And Master Sergeant Hall at that time writes an article about what his team did and what the accomplishments that they had and the things that they did to take care of the dependents and the military in Japan. And the Chief of Staff of the Air Force recognizes that article and talks about what the great work and says a great shout out to your detachment. And so he does a great. He's promoted to senior master sergeant, becomes the superintendent of the detachment there, and does incredible things. And he's the #1 or the #2 senior master sergeant in the wing, doing great things. So think of all those things he's done, and it's about time to give him the assignment of a lifetime. The place that everybody wants to go. Everybody. I mean, it is where all dreams go to be crushed. The Pentagon. I'm just kidding. He did go to the Pentagon, but there are some dreams that don't get crushed there. And so he goes off to the Pentagon, and he is the assistant career field manager for the communications experience. So think about this, kind of unique. He's done communications and computers his whole career. That doesn't necessarily happen too much anymore, where our enlisted maybe go back and forth or do a broadening tour. He's done communications this whole time. So think back about 1990 to right about now and the differences and the changes that happen. So as the assistant career field manager, he's responsible for making sure all those enlisted are trained properly. We're now doing cyber warfare, we're doing cyber defense, all those kind of things. And so he's making sure that they're trained, they're resourced, they have the equipment, they knew. He's talking to the Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, he's working those issues. But one of the things that he really talks about in his time there is he got to be a part of an Air Force pilot program and leading that for former First Lady Michelle Obama's Joining Forces Initiative, which was an initiative to help out families. And so Senior Master Harrell then gets to work with that and bring that program on, and that's pretty special that you got to do that. He's promoted to Chief Master Sergeant, becomes the career field manager. So now he has some other assistants do all the work for him, right? So, but he's the Chief Master Sergeant, he's continuing to do that. And another special thing that the Halls got to do is they got to go to a dinner at the Air House. And so for those of you who don't know, Air House is where the Chief of Staff of the Air Force lives from way back to General LeMay. And he gets to go there, and they're kind of surprised that they got invited. But they have an incredible dinner. Debbie and I have got to go to the Air House. I did not get to go until I was a Brigadier General Select. But it is that kind of, you feel the history of the Air Force there. So they got to have dinner. And besides the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, you were the only enlisted person in the room. And you thought through that how that chief and that Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force brought you into that circle and got to have, and that's because of the accolades and the things that you have done. And so great thing that you guys got to do. So he's Chief Master Sergeant, and we head him off to be an operations group superintendent. So this is the senior person that is advising the commander, leading those enlisted, and making sure that we're getting the mission done on a day-to-day basis. So he heads out to Schriever Air Force Base, Colorado, and becomes the 50th Network Operations Group Commander. So he's still doing comm stuff because they're a network operations group, but they are responsible for the whole Air Force satellite control network. So every military, U.S., reconnaissance, NOAA, NASA, weather, every satellite has to be supported by that worldwide network that has to be up all of the time. And so he does an incredible job with 1,000 folks that are in that operations group, keeping that network to a 99% reliability. We use that network here, and he does an incredible job. He's the #1 Chief Master Sergeant in that group. And then he gets to do another operations group superintendent job, to arguably the best operations group in the United States Air Force, the 45th Operations Group. I might be a little biased, but it is the best operations group in the United States Air Force. He gets to come along, and at first he's responsible for helping the commander with 1,400 people keeping the Eastern Range ready. And that's the range that makes sure that we can launch our rockets whenever we need to, and it's 1.5 million square miles. And so he does an incredible job with those folks. But he also has a space communication squadron in the operations group. So again, he's still continuing to do those communications. And then he's a part of the team that brings the launch group and the ops group together. And it's to not only do the Eastern Range side, but also the mission assurance side with the rockets and the satellites. And so brings that team together, 26 different launches during his time, $13 billion of assets into the proper orbit for our warfighters and nation, and just does an incredible job doing that. And that's what finds us here today. I could talk for hours, but I think they're ready for me to stop. And I also think Suzanne's ready to have you back. So family, I hope this little talk that we had tells you about the incredible things that your loved one has done over those 28 years and how much he means to our Air Force and the things that he's accomplished. And to Suzanne and Alec, on behalf of every commander and every supervisor and all the airmen that you've led over those 28 years, I want to personally thank you for those 28 dedicated years of service to your country. And for the sacrifices that you both have made and your family has made. And so we just can't do it right to thank you enough, but I just want to thank you for that. And I think it's time that we make you Chief Master Sergeant Alec Hall, United States Air Force, retired. So, yes, sir. Thank you.
Attention to orders. To all who shall see these, presents greetings. This is to certify that the President of the United States of America authorized by Executive Order 16 January 1969, has awarded the Meritorious Service Medal, 5th Oak Leaf Cluster, to Chief Master Sergeant Alexander E. Hall for meritorious service from 24 December 2016 to 31 August 2019. Chief Master Sergeant Alexander E. Hall distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States Air Force as Superintendent, 45th Operations Group, 45th Space Wing, Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida. During this period, Chief Hall led the enlisted airmen of the world's most successful spaceport through 45 military, civil, and commercial launches, placing more than $16 billion of satellites on orbit. Recognizing an increasing gap in range capabilities, Chief Hall championed establishing a new innovation laboratory, capitalizing on in-house expertise in pioneering prototypes. He advised the Technical Insertion Pilot Program to develop a portfolio of 36 fast-track projects designed to meet the increasing service needs of launch customers. To further posture the organization for future success, Chief Hall drove consolidation of 2 groups and $6 billion worth of operations and maintenance processes into one seamless organization, establishing a solid foundation for an unprecedented 200% mission growth. Finally, to ensure both the safety of personnel and the mission, Chief Hall deftly led the 45th Operations Group through a Category 1 hurricane evacuation just 21 hours after launching the X-37B. Under his exemplary leadership across multiple domains, the 45th Operations Group earned recognition through 36 wing level and 29 higher headquarters awards. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Chief Hall culminate a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Attention to orders. Special order number AC-00-33333, effective 1 September 2019. You are relieved from active duty, 45th Space Wing, Patrick Air Force Base, Florida. Retired effective 01 September 2019, per AFI 363203, in the grade of Chief Master Sergeant. Please be seated. At this time, General Chefs will present Chief Master Sergeant Hall the Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America, which honors Chief Master Sergeant Hall for 28 years of dedicated service. It reads, "To all who shall see these, presents greetings. This is to certify that Chief Master Sergeant Alexander E. Hall, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Air Force on the first day of September 2019. Chief Master Sergeant Hall will now be presented with a certificate of appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. It reads, "I am proud to join your friends and family in congratulating you on your retirement from the United States Air Force. The achievement and contributions you have made throughout your career are indicative of the core values of our great service. On behalf of all airmen, thank you for your faithful and devoted service to our nation. As this chapter in your life closes and a new one begins, I hope the years ahead are filled with more great memories and continued success. Signed, Caleb Wright, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force." Chief Hall has also received a personal letter from Brigadier General Chess. It reads, "Congratulations on a most distinguished and successful career. You have made many lasting contributions to the Air Force and our nation throughout the years. Your dedicated service has set an outstanding example for all who have served with you. The absolute top reputation you have established in a variety of key demanding jobs should rightfully be a source of great pride and satisfaction. The Air Force and the nation are grateful for all you have done. I am confident your contributions in return have left a lasting mark on those who have served with you. I hope you will continue to maintain the same active interest and support of our Air Force that characterized your active service. Debbie and I join all those with whom you have served to wish you success and happiness in the years ahead. Sincerely, Brigadier General Douglas A. Chess, Commander, 45th Space Wing." Chief Hall has also received letters of appreciation from former Presidents Barack Obama, George H.W. Bush, and William Clinton, as well as from the Mayor of Honolulu, Kirk Caldwell. At this time, we would like to ask Ms. Suzanne Hall to please come forward and join the official party.
There she is.
Ms. Hall will now place the retirement pin on Chief Master Sergeant Hall's lapel, signifying a distinctive change in military status, including a distinguished career of service to his country. Ms. Hall, in honor of your husband's retirement, we have a certificate of appreciation from the Chief of Staff of the Air Force to present to you. It reads, in grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents this certificate of recognition to Suzanne L. Hall for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Given this first day of September 2019, signed, General David Goldfein, Chief of Staff of the Air Force. Ms. Hall will now be presented with a certificate of appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. It reads, on behalf of all Air Force airmen and their families, the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force presents this certificate to Suzanne L. Hall. I join your spouse and friends in thanking you for the numerous contributions and sacrifices you made in support of our United States Air Force. Your dedication gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service in defense of our great nation. Signed, Caleb Wright, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. Ms. Hall has also received a personal letter from Brigadier General Chess. It reads, on behalf of a grateful nation, please accept my sincere congratulations and thanks for all you have done in support of Alec's military service. In addition to the many responsibilities of a military spouse, you also devoted much time and made many contributions and sacrifices to the Air Force and our country. The wholehearted support you gave Alec in his military duty has enhanced the mission of the Air Force. Both the Air Force and the nation are grateful for all you have done in supporting your husband and his service to our country. Your contributions have made a meaningful difference. Debbie and I wish you both the very best as you embark on the next chapter. Sincerely, Brigadier General Douglas A. Chess, Commander, 45th Space Wing. At this time, we would like to ask Chief Hall's parents to join us on stage. In honor of your son's retirement, we would like to present you with a certificate of appreciation for Brigadier General Chess. It reads, for your outstanding love, support, understanding, and kindness shown to your son in his career upon his retirement. As the parents of a military member, we understand and appreciate all the sacrifices you made while he served our country. He served proudly and professionally while maintaining a career and family through the good as well as the difficult times. We, the proud members of the United States Air Force, are grateful to you and commend your superior efforts, assistance, and personal sacrifices given over the years. Please continue to give him the support and love he deserves as he leaves the Air Force and embarks on a new way of life. Signed, Brigadier General Douglas A. Chess, Commander, 45th Space Wing. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Hall. At this time, we would like to ask Suzanne's parents to join us on stage. In honor of your son-in-law's retirement, we would like to present you with a certificate of appreciation from Brigadier General Chess. It reads, "For your outstanding love, support, understanding, and kindness shown to your son in his career upon his retirement. As the parents of a military member, we understand and appreciate all the sacrifices you made while he served our country. He served proudly and professionally while maintaining a career and family through the good as well as the difficult times. We, the proud members of the United States Air Force, are grateful to you and commend your superior efforts, assistance, and personal sacrifices given over the years. Please continue to give him the support and love he deserves as he leaves the Air Force and embarks on a new way of life." Signed, Brigadier General Douglas Chess, Commander, 45th Space Wing. Thank you, General Chess, Chief Hall, Mrs. Hall, and Ms. Hall's parents. Members of the 45th Operations Group will now perform the flag folding ceremony. For more than 200 years, the American flag has been a symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the 13 original colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor, white signifies purity and innocence, and blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. This United States flag has accompanied Chief Master Sergeant Hall throughout his career, serving as a constant reminder of his solemn responsibility to defend this great nation, as well as his commitment to preserving the freedom that so many courageously sacrificed to protect. For over 25 years, this flag has been carried on multiple deployments and military assignments. Anywhere Chief Hall was needed, the flag was there. Today, that same flag will be folded to honor Chief Master Sergeant Hall for giving a portion of his life in defense of our great nation and to represent an end to its long journey. On December 25th, 1995, this flag was first unfurled over his combat communications outpost at Howard Air Force Base, Panama, where he deployed in support of Operation Green Clover. On 15 June 1998, this flag was flown over the Joint Task Force Southwest Asia compound at Ascan Village, Saudi Arabia, in support of Operation Southern Watch. On 5 April 2000, during the Operation Northern Watch, this flag was flown in combat over Iraq in an F-16 Fighting Falcon, piloted by the Combined Task Force Commanding General, Brigadier General Bob Delaney. On 10 February 2002, while assigned to the 99th Reconnaissance Squadron, Detachment 1, in support of Operation Olive Harvest, this flag was flown over a classified location aboard a U-2 Dragon Lady, piloted by Major Chris Burns. On 26 April 2003, while assigned to the 99th Reconnaissance Squadron, in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, this flag was flown over Al Dhafra Air Base aboard a U-2 Dragon Lady, piloted by Major Doug Morse. On 19 May 2003, this flag was flown on a KC-10 extender mission, piloted by First Lieutenant Clint Palmer from the 908 Expeditionary Air Refueling Squadron in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. On 7 December 2007, this flag was flown over the USS Arizona Memorial in solemn remembrance of the 1,177 sailors that died 66 years prior during the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. On 18 October 2008, this flag was flown aboard a B-1B Lancer, assigned to the 34th Expeditionary Bomb Squadron in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. The mission's call sign was Bone 11, piloted by Major Alamo Landman. On 25 December 2008, this flag was flown by C-17 Globemaster III crew assigned to the 816th Expeditionary Airlift Squadron while providing combat support to Operation Iraqi Freedom. On 1 August 2013, this flag was flown over the Pentagon in honor of Chief Hall's unwavering dedication to the mission. On 15 May 2014, this flag was flown over the U.S. Capitol at the request of the Honorable Senator Mazi Hirono. On 25 March 2019, this flag was flown over Patrick Air Force Base Airman Leadership School in honor of Chief Master Sergeant Hall's leadership and dedication to the development of airmen throughout his military career. On 25 April 2019, this flag was flown over Launch Complex 39 Alpha, located on Kennedy Space Center, Launch Complexes 37, 40, and 41, located at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida, in honor of Chief Master Sergeant Hall's 28 years, 7 months, and 7 days of exemplary service to this country. It will now be encased in his shadow box, its service to the nation fulfilled. At this time, Chief Hall would like all active duty and retired Chief Master Sergeants, sister service equivalents, and honorary chiefs to join him on stage for a picture.
Everybody, come on. Yes. Okay, absolutely. You. All right. All right, come on, let's squeeze in. Too many for one row. Two rows. Sweet, that means a short guy.
Yeah, if you're over 5'9".
All right, let's get this class together. In the middle. Right. All right. Yeah, come here. Everybody in? Come on, we like each other.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 3.
Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
and one impromptu before we let you go. You've been a very active and member of the Chiefs group for the Space Coast Chiefs group. So on behalf of everyone up here and all the ones that couldn't make it today, thank you for everything you've done for us.
Thanks, man.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all. It is my pleasure to introduce Chief Master Sergeant Alexander E. Hall, United States Air Force, retired.
I had to bring the Chiefs up here, a couple reasons, right? They're my brothers and sisters in arms, but really, after that flag folding, it was getting to me, so I'm like, let's lighten it up a little bit. I don't want to get all serious too fast. I'll probably be bouncing back and forth because at this point, I had to write down everything I wanted to say because I knew this is the point that it really becomes real. And 28 years, everybody asks, like, wow, 28 years, it's like forever, isn't it? Until you're standing right here, right? I don't know where that time went. The general commented on some of the highlights. This has been an incredible ride, and I don't think I could ever duplicate it, and I'm glad I did it. So I'm going to have to stick to script, because if I don't, I'm going to forget something. I joined the Air Force, as the General mentioned, in January 1991. Actually, so delayed enlistment was earlier in 90 when the Cold War was won. The Air Force was still 600,000 personnel, no bad guys left in the world, and it was just going to be a cakewalk. It's like easiest job ever. And before I joined, I actually was a pipe fitter working at the shipyard at Pearl Harbor. It's an outdoor job, it's a dirty job. Lots of overtime, lots of hard work, great young people's job when you've got the will and the muscle to do that, but I soon realized I'm kind of an indoor cat and didn't want to be out in the heat, in the mud. So one day on my way home, I stopped by the Air Force recruiter's office and said, give me something with air conditioning. And he said, well, we got computers. I'm like, I'll take it. But they couldn't get me into a computer job right away, so I had to wait till January 91, and by the time I actually entered basic training, Desert Shield, Desert Storm had kicked off, and then suddenly it was a different Air Force. And that conflict, starting then, has kind of defined the shape of my career because we continue to serve in those areas. So great start, but I joined the Air Force not just to get out of the mud, right? But I joined for all the same reasons we all joined. I wanted to travel, check. I wanted to get my education. Okay, I got something, yeah. But the one thing I didn't know I was joining for that soon became readily apparent was the family. This Air Force, the military in general, is an incredible family. And we look out for each other, we take care of our own, and that was apparent right away, starting out in Lodges Field. And I should have known that even before I joined the service, because I had some really early mentors before I came into the service. One was, I'm going to name names that nobody here knows, but it's important to me to kind of say it out loud. I want to thank Fred Nakaguma. He was my high school physics teacher, but he was also a major, retired in the United States Air Force. And he's the one that kind of opened my eyes to opportunities and possibilities in the Air Force. I have to thank Wes and Jerry Kuthin. They taught me about excellence and responsibility. They were both Air Force senior NCOs. Jerry was a senior master sergeant. Wes was a master sergeant. Both of them computer operators prior to me joining the Air Force. Responsibility and excellence were key because I was dating their daughter. And so, yeah, they made that very clear what expectations were. Jim Busby. So growing up in Hawaii, where I grew up, a small town called Elk Beach is right on the channel entrance of Pearl Harbor. I could see the U.S. Navy coming and going every single day, and it's quite a sight to see and got me really excited about maybe one day joining the Navy. So much so that I joined a youth organization called the United States Naval Sea Cadets. And I want to thank Jim Busby, who was my commanding officer in the Sea Cadets, because he taught me some discipline. Took a kid from a small town with no direction whatsoever, and told me to grow up. So that was key. So basically, from that really early time, I think I kind of knew I was heading to the military. Once I was in the service, I needed all the help I could get. Certainly, it took a village to raise A1C Hall. I was not a stellar troop. Again, most of these folks not here today, but I fondly remember them. Teresa and Larry Corzine, probably the most patient supervisors you could ever ask for, particularly when you're given an A1C who knows it all, right? Raquel Ingram, Kel, I'm just trying to find you. You're there. You're back there. Hey. known each other since 1992 at Lodges Field. And I always knew if I was going to get called to the first sergeant's office that Kel was probably going to be right there as my co-defendant. So thanks for coming out today. Influencers like Rory Sherman and Dennis and Teresa Polity. Truman Sanderson. Truman Sanderson was my actual very first supervisor straight off the plane at Lodges Field. Staff sergeant took me into the computer room. So you asked what computers looked like in 1991. Each Air Force base had precisely one computer on it. This massive mainframe took up an entire building, just like you can imagine for those 1960s, 1970s films. That was the first computer I worked on, and everything on the base ran through that. And Truman Sanderson welcomed me in and showed me this workhorse Unisys mainframe and said, "There's nothing here you can break that we can't fix." Which for a young person who already thinks he knows everything, is quite the challenge, right? And yeah, and I broke a few things. And Staff Sergeant Sanderson was absolutely correct, because as soon as I broke them, he said, "Good, now go fix them." So that was an incredible learning experience, and I'd like to thank him. In Naples, Italy, Staff Sergeant Leroy Lawson, he's the one, when I was a senior airman, who taught me what it meant to be as an NCO. He was my shift supervisor and was so confident in my abilities that when another shift supervisor position came open, mind you, I'm an Air Force E4 in a NATO assignment, that Staff Sergeant Lawson pushed me forward to the leadership team and said, "Make him the shift supervisor." And they gave me a position as a shift supervisor over 3 other U.S. Navy E5s, an Italian Navy E8, a Greek Air Force O1. So quite the hodgepodge organization, and they left the Air Force E4, youngest guy on the team, in charge of all that, and humbled that Staff Sergeant Lawson felt that he could trust me like that. So, from Tinker Air Force Base, I want to thank Rick Lemon. Rick is an excellent example that the Air Force is a family, because I last talked to Rick Lemon in 1997 after I left Tinker. Never talked to him again up until about 20 years later, when he just called me up and said, "Hey, I'm in town, let's go grab a beer." I mean, there's nothing that tells you that the Air Force is a family and we do this together than those bonds you create that can last 2 decades. I'd like to thank Steve Black, Cynthia Wright, Marty and Tanya Joyce. Marty was my very first airman, and I think the Air Force owed me one, because he was just as difficult as I was. But we became lifelong friends. Marty and Tanya just recently retired from the Air Force themselves, both as senior master sergeants, and now are off doing successful things. I got to thank Chief Master Sergeant Sharad Ali. Did Chief Ali make it here today? I don't remember seeing him, but I want to say Chief Ali was a chief's chief. He was the model of poise and purpose. He showed me that you could still express kindness even when you have to discipline somebody. And he's a very compassionate man and a great person to emulate. Got to thank Gary Schrader, Tim Troutman, one of my training mentors who kind of helped grow me as a technician. Jim Gardner, one of my very earliest airmen. I was privileged to supervise, and honestly, in my entire career, I've never met anybody who works harder or was more focused on getting a task done. He was just driven. And so as a supervisor, I was set. I was like, this guy's incredible. In Guam, I got to thank Art Hammeister. So Art spent 4 years in the Army before he went over to civil service. When I was in Guam, in charge of the Network Control Center, Art was my civilian counterpart. And I was there in Guam as a single parent. It was just myself and my daughter Shannon. We were there together. You know, small island, it's great, it's tropical, but when it's just the two of you against the world, it gets a little tough. But Art always brought us in, made us part of his family. So I got to thank him. Bobby Padilla, Nick Vazana, a couple more great influencers. Teresa Zinger, she's staring at me right there, 3rd row. All right, so Teresa has been my most aggravating work wife I've ever had. And and what I mean by that is anytime I thought I was more important than I really was, Teresa was the first one to come around and say, sit down, shut up, you're doing it all wrong. She kept me humble, kept me grounded, kept me maddened, so thank you. And Don Alton, Tom Robinson, thank you for being here. Sue Kittle, she's another one of my favorite devil's advocate, honestly, Senior Master Sergeant Kittle. So Senior Master Sergeant Hall, Senior Master Sergeant Kittle. I was pure comm, born and bred. She was a retrainee from security forces, had a different perspective on what it meant to be a communicator. And boy, we'd go at it. But it was that flip side of the coin that I valued, because I could always depend on Sue to kind of say, hey, but did you think about? And yeah, she drove me up the wall, but she was right, almost always. And then years later, talking again about the Air Force family, Sue retired from Hawaii and moved out to Florida. And we just moved into Florida, and a hurricane was approaching, and we really didn't know anybody around us or even where to go. Sue opened her doors to my family as evacuees, took us in. You just can't replace friendships like that. At the Pentagon, Chief Master Sergeant Rob Jackson was the 3D0, that's my career field, comm cyber, 3D0 career field manager. Rob Jackson hired me out of Hawaii to go be the assistant career field manager, and I don't know what I did to deserve it. To this day, I still don't know. But Rob Jackson always had an unwavering belief in me, to the point that he just pointed at me one day and said, hey, I need you to go over to the White House. Just talk to some folks. Okay, I've never been to the White House, and I don't know why I'm going there, but it turns out First Lady Michelle Obama was kicking off her Joining Forces initiative to find meaningful employment for veterans post-service, and they were looking for an IT background veteran to kind of speak from the veteran's perspective. Rob Jackson knew that I could go to the White House and talk on a national stage with the First Lady by my side. I didn't know that. I didn't know that while I was saying it, and I probably broke all sorts of protocols, but there I stood in the White House, and it was Rob Jackson that put me there. Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking. Bob Busey, another great mentor. I want to thank Colonel retired Jason Sutton. He was my group commander out of the 50th NOG. He gave me my first group chance. And Colonel Sutton, if anybody knows him, he sets very high expectations, and he doesn't tolerate failure, but he does enable and encourage success, and he drove us, and it was good, and we were successful. So I have to thank him for that. I gotta thank Command Chief John Bentavania. It's real quick. Chief Bentavania was the very first command chief that I ever had the privilege of working with one-on-one. Up to this point, I was kind of in the backgrounds, in the shadows. If I saw the command chief, it was because I'd done something I shouldn't have. But now, John and I were meeting pretty regularly, and probably more regularly than he wanted, honestly, because I wasn't always in step with where he was going. I was usually 180 out from where Chief Bentavania wanted me, and I know I was a real pain in the ass. So, but you let me run, you let me stumble, and then when I did stumble, you came along, you picked me up. So, thanks, John. But then on the other side, and the reason I can say I was such a pain in the ass with John Bentavania was Chief Tamara Olson, a couple rows back, thick as thieves. I think our only purpose in life, she was the mission support group commandant, or superintendent, I was the NOG superintendent, so already we had a forum of chiefs, and we were pretty anti-Bentavania for a while, so poor John. And I don't know how you did it, but thanks. And Tamara, thank you for being an incredible wingman. I need to thank Colonel Burton Catledge, who gave me the additional opportunity to continue to serve as a group commander. He brought me out here to Patrick as the OG chief, which again, I don't know what I do to merit the trust of some of these fantastic leaders, because this is a space wing with a launch mission and a lot of operational focus, and I'm a comm guy. I'm just some computer lackey. I couldn't even spell rocket. I'd never seen a satellite. But Burton Catledge you know, he said, I need you to come out and I need you to do one thing for me, and it has almost nothing to do with the Rockets. He said, I need you to take care of Aaron. And I certainly hope I met his standard. I also have to thank Colonel Stephen Lang. He took a lead by keeping me on, not firing me on day one, too. So I do think, I don't know, these guys are always sneaky. John Rudin, Chris Hoke, you guys hiding back there somewhere. John and Chris are the group are the glue of the 45th Operations Group. Unsung heroes from the day I met them. They're sneaky. They just get stuff done. I don't know how they magically make everything work, but they do, and I need to thank them for that. Chief Gary Lamb, all the way from Offutt, Nebraska. Chief Lamb was here previously with the 45th Weather Squadron before he went off to his new assignment, and then he's my sponsor here. He brought us in, welcomed us in, brought us over to his house, made us feel like family. But I tell you what I value about Chief Lamb is that he was my sounding board for stupid ideas. And I had lots of them, and Gary never shied away from saying, hey, you know, that's really stupid. And so thanks for that. I needed that a lot. And then to the rest of my fellow chiefs here today, thank you. Thank you for honoring me with your presence, your steadfast support, your friendship, your guidance. It's not always easy what we do, but collectively, I think we do okay. So thank you for that. And then really, the men and women of the 45th Space Wing have been the most remarkable group of professionals I've ever had the opportunity to serve with. It's been a tremendous honor. And I need to thank you for letting me be on your team. So, we know that a successful Air Force career, as General Chess spelled it out, it really sounded like I did a lot of incredible things. When in all actuality, I was just part of a lot of incredible things. In no way did I get to where I was going without the support of my family. And so, of course, it starts with your parents, right? And so, when a young American joins the military, it's actually their parents that are giving away their most prized possession, with the solemn understanding that their life's treasure may not be returned. My parents did that in 1990. I remember the day I came home from the shipyard. My dad worked there as well. He was in a different division. He didn't know I was disenfranchised with being a pipe fitter. I left work. I went by the recruiting station. I went home. I told my mom that I just signed up for the Air Force. And I remember her exact words were, no, you didn't. Not as in disbelief, as in commanding, like, no, you didn't. And I was like, I kind of just did. And she let me go. She let me go do this. And so I need to thank you guys for that. And thank you for your sacrifice and support of my career. But also that extends to Bill and Donna Kimes, my mother and father-in-law. Okay, so when I say that service members' parents give up their treasure, I asked Bill and Donna to kind of do the same when I asked their daughter to marry me. I can appreciate the sacrifice you made and trusting me with your daughter. And I got to thank you for supporting our careers, our lives together, because I've taken her everywhere, I've moved her everywhere, I've demanded incredible things of her, and you supported me, you let me do it, you encouraged her, and you were a lot of strength to our family, so thank you. And so now brings us to Suzanne. First, happy birthday, baby. So, when we were talking about retiring, this is probably December of last year. We were playing with different dates, different ideas, thoughts on how we wanted to do this. And I got the wild, harebrained idea that, hey, let's just do it on May 15th. And she looked dead at me and said, you know what that day is, right? I'm like, it's a Wednesday. And when she course corrected me, as she often does and often needs to, I said, well, honey, you know, I probably can't give you any better gift than myself, so. Happy birthday, I'm all yours. But really, and this is the part, I guess just look away now, right? So, Suzanne, thank you for making me a better me. You supported me as a father. You understood that when I deployed into harm's way, it was okay. You encouraged me to finish my degree. You pushed me to work towards promotion twice. And when I say push me, she didn't just say, hey, you need to go study. She physically picked up and left the state and said, now you've got some quiet time to yourself, get your ass to work. Twice. You've given me everything I have. You give me everything you have, unconditionally. And most importantly, you love me for who I am. And I know that's no easy job. So if you would, Suzanne, would you come up here, please? And while I'm doing this, could I also get all the children to come up real quick, please? So, this is a little different too. Come on, you guys. I jumped short a couple kids, so. You saw General Chefs present me with the Meritorious Service Medal earlier, and that was very important for me because military medals, they tell a story about a person's career, right? You heard the citation of just a snippet of what I did here at Cape Canaveral. But medals, they tell, you know, where you've been, what you've accomplished, what missions you've been part of. And then, of course, over a career, you collect this storyboard of accomplishments. You know, I've earned several ribbons and medals that reflect my personal, professional history and the places I've served and what I've achieved. And each one of those medals has its own individual story about how I earned it. What was not recorded in my decoration citations or my personal records is what really happened to earn that medal. And so I want to tell you some of the real stories behind these medals. And the first is going to be the Air Force, the Air and Space Campaign Medal, which is awarded to members of the Air Force who supported a significant U.S. military operation as designated by the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. And Steph, I'm presenting you my Air and Space Campaign Medal for being an outstanding supporter of my career. You embodied service and sacrifice in pursuit of your education while simultaneously being a fantastic mother. You championed my service and praised my accomplishments in every turn. The next medal is the Combat Readiness Medal, which is awarded to members who have sustained individual combat mission readiness in an Air Force weapon system for at least 2 consecutive years. And Amber, I want to give you my Combat Readiness Medal, which you more than earned. I'm not going to let you. When I went away to Panama and missed our first Christmas together as a family, right, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal recognizes military members who have supported operations to counter terrorism in the war on terror since September 11th, 2001. And Becca, you've earned the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal for sacrificing the only home, school, friends you've ever known to join a new family, to move to a faraway place, and adopt the time-honored title of military brat. The Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal is awarded to members of the United States Armed Forces who participated in U.S. military operations. And Shannon, you earned the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal. When I missed your 6th birthday while I was deployed to Turkey, it wasn't the first of your birthdays that I missed, and it wasn't the last. Thank you. My son Connor couldn't make it. Army specialist, medic in the Oklahoma National Guard. So he's earning his own decorations, but I did want to mention that I'm going to give him my Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal for assuming the responsibilities as man of the house when I left him, his mom, and his siblings and deployed to Qatar. He had to sacrifice his freedom to go play and have fun and instead take care of his little brother while I was gone. My daughter Allison likewise couldn't be here, but I'm going to give her my Korean Defense Service Medal, which she earned at age 3 when I had to go away for a full year and leave her behind while I defended a place far, far away. The Air Force Good Conduct Medal is awarded to airmen who have displayed excellent character and efficiency. And Alika, the Air Force Good Conduct Medal is being presented to you for being an exemplary son. For sacrificing time with Dad when I went away on business trips and when I had to work late and couldn't come home and play with you like you wanted me to. And I actually forgot one child. Cadet Second Class, Mahi Lyons, would you come up real quick? And I call her a child because when I was at the, when I was stationed in Colorado Springs, the United States Air Force Academy has a program called Sponsor Parents. And Suzanne and I had just moved into a very generously sized house over on Peterson Air Force Base. General Chefs was the commander out there, and he took care of the Chiefs pretty good. And so I had this huge house, and we'd just downsized. It was just the 3 of us, Suzanne, Alika, and I. And we were used to having big families and lots of kids around, so we decided we would become sponsor parents. And I contacted the Air Force Academy, and I said, hey, I'd like to sponsor a cadet from Hawaii, because I can empathize for maybe being, the first time off of the island, new, strange cultures of being on the U.S. mainland. And then we have a commonality of being at home together, talking about home together. It turns out the Air Force Academy gave me 4 cadets because they can't count. But there were a couple of them that were truly incredible sons and daughters. And Mahi, you were one of them. They instantly became our family, and it was great to help support them through their studies. Cadet Mahi Lyons is finishing up her junior year. She was actually senior airman Mahi Lyons, dental tech, right, if I recall?
4N, so medtech.
MedTech, okay, RO. So she was a MedTech at Columbus Air Force Base, Mississippi, came into the Air Force as an enlisted member, got competitively selected to go to the Air Force Academy Preparatory School. Then she absolutely crushed. Got accepted to the U.S. Air Force Academy. We're about a year away from calling you Lieutenant Mahi Lyons. But Mahi, I'm going to give you my National Defense Service Medal. This medal is awarded to those who serve in active duty during a time of war. I know you have one of your own, but I want you to take mine, okay? I want you to carry on our legacy of service and excellence. Okay? And really, this is just a deliberate act so I can get everybody up here for a photo. So let's squeeze in, guys. Get everybody.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. Look, I'm all good. Oh, I got it. The delay, you see us handing out our tradition in Hawaii, and I think it was important that we honor some of those traditions, so thank you for working with us on that, so thank you, everyone. All right, so I only have a couple more. Thanks for bearing with me. I need to thank Senior Master Sergeant Gary Baker, our MC today. Wonderful job. Thank you, sir. Organizers for today's events, Chief Master Sergeant Tamika Frazier and Senior Master Sergeant Teresa Valdez. They're hiding deliberately, but they put together this whole thing. Chief Frazier came to me 6 months ago when she heard I was even just pondering retirement, and she said, let me do it. And I couldn't ask for a better wingman, and so thank you, ma'am, for what's been an incredible amount of work. I appreciate that. Our proffer, Timothy Russell. I'm going to stop right here on Tim Russell real quick. And put that, is that you? Oh, okay. Come here, Tim. I'm going to call Tim up real quick because, Chiefs, we know, we encounter those airmen every once in a while that after we sit and talk with them and get to know them and get to understand what motivates them and what drives them. You see that fire, that passion, and you know, hey, someday this person's going to be a chief. And I know this about Tim Russell because he is hungry to do all the right things. He never wants to leave the battlefield without satisfying the need of every single airman he encounters. Takes care of everybody like they were his family. Tim, I want you to go ahead and pull that out real quick. In 2015, the senior enlisted advisor to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, along with all the service component chiefs, published a book called The Non-Commissioned Officer and Petty Officer, Backbone of the Armed Forces. And I would proffer to say that maybe none of you in this room have seen this book because it was only produced electronically. They released it force-wide, but only electronically. And the print edition was limited to the 500 editions they were handing out in the Pentagon the day it came out. And this is my copy, presented to me by the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. So Chief Cody wrote, "Lead our airmen well." Okay? And I want you to take this book, Tim, because I want you to keep leading our airmen well. Okay? I know you're going to be an incredible chief someday. I want to thank you for your service and your friendship. I want to thank Chaplain Hill for the invitation. Thank you, sir. That was great. Chaplain Warner was a good friend back at Schriever Air Force Base, and kind of quirky. So he came up with the Dr. Seuss theme, invocation, and Chaplain Hill was kind enough to play along. So thank you for that, sir. Additional assistance provided today by the Asian Pacific Heritage Committee, the Airman Leadership School, the Chiefs Group, thank you all. The program today was designed by James Rayner, Invitation design was by Staff Sergeant Damon Martin. Our national anthem singer, Senior Airman Christina Coote. Can we give her a round of applause? That was incredible. Thank you, ma'am. The reception POC, Staff Sergeant Heather Moran. Set up and tear down for DV support is Staff Sergeant Henry Laro, Tech Sergeant Precious Smith, Senior Airman Shalandra Cole. Thank you, ma'am. Slide presentation designers were Master Sergeant Sigfrido Santiago and Staff Sergeant John Michael Clark. Our honor guard today was phenomenal, led by Tech Sergeant Joshua Hunter, Staff Sergeant Matthew Walls, Staff Sergeant Samuel McGowan, Senior Airman Sean Branch, and Senior Airman Brandon Gainey. Brandon, you made me cry, man. Don't do that. That entire honor guard was comprised of men and women of the 45th Operations Group, so that was very touching. I want to thank the escorts that are helping my family kind of scurry along today. Master Sergeant Brian Dinkins, Tech Sergeant Scott Hewlett, Staff Sergeant David Jeaton, Senior Airman Kason George, A1C Robert Kistner, A1C Brianna Busky, and A1C John A. Hill. Thank you. Thank you all for sacrificing your time today to help make this special for me. And one last thank you to Brigadier General Chess. Sir, I couldn't have asked for a better ceremony. So thank you so much for your leadership and for your time today. And that's it. That's it. So thank you all for joining my celebration and being here today. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief Master Sergeant Hall. Your retirement is a well-deserved accomplishment. We wish you and your family success and happiness in all of your future endeavors. This concludes today's ceremony. On behalf of Chief Master Sergeant Hall and his family, thank you for attending. Please take a few moments to congratulate them and join us for refreshments in the chapel. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of the Air Force song and the departure of the official party.